In Peppa Pig, almost all of the characters are animals, but have you ever wondered what it would be like if several humans also existed in the cartoon? Human schools. Very few humans have appeared in Peppa Pig over the more than 20 years since the series was released, with the easiest ones to remember being the Queen and the Pirate, which indicates that there is truly a very small number of regular people in the Little Pigs universe. But if there were an equal number of humans and civilized animals, many small details would change. For example, it's easy to imagine that there would be a school just for human beings. While Peppa would continue studying at Madame Gazelle's school with her friends, the human characters would study at a separate school with a human teacher. This rule would exist so that the different needs of humans and animals could be met, with each environment being designed for one of them. However, if we want to be more realistic, it's likely that not everyone would like this, with some children wanting animals and humans to study together so that everyone could play with each other. Even some adults might want to change this rule, believing that children need to get used to other kinds of people already during their school years. And since the world of Peppa Pig evolves over time, there would come a moment when the human and animal schools would be merged into a single school with one very large class. Want to know more about what would happen if several humans existed in Peppa Pig? Stay tuned, because another awesome Cinewave is already on. Human neighbors. The main change that would happen in the show is that many human characters would be added to the cast, which would be great. This would be a fun opportunity to give the pig family some neighbors, more specifically, human neighbors. Imagine if there were a human family living near the pig's house, being very similar to them in many ways, while also belonging to a completely different species. It would be a really nice way to show that people can be similar and different at the same time. This would help teach children that everyone needs to be treated with respect, even when they are not like you. For that same reason, the pig family would get along very well with their human neighbors, and from time to time would invite them over for a meal. Despite that, not all human neighbors would be nice. One of these families could have some kind of feud with the pig family, caused by a very old misunderstanding that was never resolved. Maybe that family wouldn't like Peppa and her friends jumping in muddy puddles and making noise. Best friend. For all these years, Susie Sheep has been Peppa's best friend, and it seems like that is far from changing. But if several humans existed in this world, it's possible that Peppa would have a human best friend instead of Susie. This friend could be one of the little pig's neighbors, someone she would play with every day, since their houses would be very close to each other. If anything, Susie might feel a bit jealous of Peppa because of this. Or maybe they wouldn't even be that close in this reality, with Susie herself also having another human best friend. It's also possible that the little pig, the sheep, and the human neighbor would all be best friends with each other. Who said someone can only have one best friend? It's certain that the characters' relationships would change a lot. Either way, Peppa and Susie would still be friends at some level, whether as girls who play together from time to time, or as best friends who are also very close to a human girl. How do you think Peppa's human best friend's personality would be? Would she be as energetic and playful as Peppa, or maybe a little calmer? Couples. With more human characters, we would also see more couples in the show. We've already seen many couples in love in Peppa Pig. Her parents, Mommy Rabbit and Daddy Rabbit, Mr. Bull and Mrs. Cow, Grandpa and Granny Pig. So of course, many human couples would also appear. Looking at the couples that already exist in the cartoon, it's easy to imagine that humans would usually marry other humans. After all, the characters in Peppa Pig always marry others of the same species. Even so, this would be more a matter of habit than a strict rule. There would indeed be humans and other species who would get married after falling in love. After all, the characters in Peppa Pig are basically humans with animal characteristics. Thinking about that, it's fun to imagine that some single characters in the show might end up finding a human partner. Can you imagine if Miss Rabbit and Madame Gazelle married humans, proving that love has no limits and can overcome these barriers? Another character who could end up falling in love with a human is Aunt Dottie, being the only member of the pig family not to marry a pig. If anything, this may have actually happened in the show. In that case, it's possible that she even moved to another country because her family didn't approve of that romance. So, would you also think it would be amazing if several humans existed in Peppa Pig? If so, leave a comment below. #humans. War. Unfortunately, war is something that has happened many times throughout human history, and knowing that, having several humans in Peppa Pig would make it almost certain that at some point in the past, animals and humans fought wars against each other. In the present day, all species would be living in peace. Since we're talking about a children's show, this war would never be mentioned directly, but it would be referenced through Easter eggs that only the most attentive fans would notice. A constant sign of this conflict would be a certain rivalry that would still exist between humans and animals. They wouldn't hate each other, but some would compete with one another as a slightly healthier way of dealing with what happened in the past. There would even be a few cases of prejudice, but of course, that wouldn't be shown in the cartoon, especially since that phase would have largely been overcome by both humans and animals. War veterans. Even though this war against humans would have happened a long time ago, the show could reveal that some characters in the cast took part in it when they were younger, and that would make a lot of sense because the series includes several former sailors: Grandpa Pig, Grandpa Rabbit, and Grandpa Dog. They are calm, gentle old men nowadays, but they were once military members who served in the Navy during their youth. So if this war against humans had really happened, they would have taken part in it, and that would have shaped these characters. While Peppa would adore humans, Grandpa Pig would have a certain difficulty talking to them, not because Peppa's grandfather would be prejudiced, but because human soldiers were his enemies for many years. Grandpa Pig would carry a trauma that would resurface every time he looked at humans, but he would learn to deal with it throughout the series, eventually becoming fully friendly toward them. The cases of Grandpa Rabbit and Grandpa Dog would be similar, but at different levels. Maybe Grandpa Dog would be even more closed off toward humans. Meanwhile, Grandpa Rabbit might be like that at first too, but would end up being the first one to become more friendly, especially because Grandpa Rabbit is no longer married, so it would be very interesting if he ended up falling in love with a human lady. Narrator. Despite speaking in every episode, the narrator has never appeared physically, mainly because he isn't really considered a character. However, even that could change if Peppa Pig started focusing more on humans. After all, what if it were revealed that the narrator is a human? If anything, that may have always been true, and it would explain why his body never appears, being a very impressive secret that the show wants to reveal only when the perfect moment arrives. Now, if more humans existed in Peppa Pig, the narrator being one of them wouldn't be all that shocking, which would make that reveal happen much earlier. If you think the narrator being a person doesn't make sense, remember that in many episodes he is impressed by what happens or wonders what will happen next, showing that he doesn't know everything that is going to happen. If he were just a regular narrator, he should know everything, but since that's not the case, it's safe to say that he is a person, and in that case, he could also be a human.
Oh my God!
Vegetable schools. With humans coexisting alongside animals, there would be room for another type of species to gain more attention within the Peppa Pig universe: vegetables. They already exist in the show, but on a small scale, with only a few of them around: Mr. Potato, Super Potato, Hash Brown, and other performers like them. With an increase in the vegetable population, everything we've discussed about humans here would also apply to them, especially when it comes to education. There would be a school just for vegetables, and it would be very different. As we've seen, all the vegetables that have appeared in Peppa Pig work in the arts. They are actors, TV show hosts, and things like that. This could mean that vegetables prefer working in the artistic world, and vegetable schools would focus on that, teaching them how to act, host shows, dance, paint, and so on. Not all vegetables would go on to work in those fields, but they would still learn the basics at school. At some point, it would become allowed for children of other species who are interested in becoming artists to also study at vegetable schools. The subscribe button is flashing just for you. Click it and hit the bell right now. Coworkers. Interaction between humans and animals would also end up being present in the workplace, where it is much harder to separate each species. With that in mind, Daddy Pig would certainly work alongside some human coworkers. Given the way Peppa's dad is, he would be completely friendly and would make friends with his coworkers without the slightest problem. Those coworkers would even take part in the barbecues that Daddy Pig has with his friends. Last names. Something that would definitely change with the presence of more humans would be the way last names are treated in Peppa Pig. It seems that every family uses the name of its own species as a last name. Peppa Pig, Susie Sheep, Edmund Elephant, Richard Rabbit. You get it, right? It's very simple, but it raises questions. For example, are all pig families called the Pig family, even when they have no connection at all to Peppa's family? With humans, that would make even less sense. Just imagine if everyone's last name were human. They would definitely use real-life last names to cause less confusion, and this habit could also be adopted by animal families families? Or would this custom belong only to our species, making humans stand out even more from the animals in Peppa Pig? The fun continues with just one click. There are 2 videos on the screen waiting for you. Thanks for watching, and see you soon.